exhausting control is blocking everything you want. While you're gripping, strategizing, and forcing outcomes through management and willpower, the quantum field is trying to deliver what you desire through pathways you can't see. Control creates a specific energetic signature that contracts your electromagnetic field, narrows your observation window to 3% of available possibilities, and broadcasts the exact frequency that repels manifestation. There's a measurable mechanism where your nervous system in chronic control mode generates incoherence that reality matches with struggle. But the moment you release the grip, not through passivity, through precise physiological and energetic protocols, your observation window expands, aligned action emerges naturally, and manifestations that seemed impossible while forcing become effortless. You're about to learn the 24-hour release experiment, the 7-day integration practice, and the exact recognition that dissolves the illusion you were ever in control at all. Everything you want is already trying to reach you.
Your hands are clenched right now. Not physically, though check, and you might find tension there too. I'm talking about the invisible grip you're maintaining on your life, the constant management, the endless strategizing, the exhausting effort to make things happen the way you think they should happen. You've been doing this so long you don't even notice it anymore. It's become your baseline operational mode. Wake up. Assess what needs controlling today. Deploy energy toward forcing outcomes. Collapse into bed depleted. Repeat. And somewhere deep in your system, beneath the justifications and the productivity metrics and the belief that this is just what responsible adults do, there's a question you're afraid to ask. What if all this control is the exact thing preventing you from receiving what you actually want? I'm not talking about positive thinking or surrendering to some cosmic plan or any spiritual bypass that tells you to stop taking action. I'm talking about a specific mechanism, observable and verifiable, where the energetic signature of control actively repels the outcomes you're trying to force into existence. And the moment you release that grip, not through passivity but through precise recognition of how reality actually responds to consciousness, everything you've been fighting for becomes available in ways that feel effortless, natural, aligned. This isn't philosophy. This is physics you can test in your own experience. And by the end of this, you'll understand exactly why your hardest efforts produce your smallest results, while your most magical manifestations always seem to appear when you finally stopped trying. Let me show you what's actually happening every time you try to control an outcome. You have a desire, something you want to manifest, achieve, experience. A relationship, financial abundance, career breakthrough, health transformation, whatever it is, the desire itself is clean, pure potential seeking expression through your particular perspective. But then your conditioned mind does something devastating. It looks at current circumstances, notices the gap between what is and what you want, and generates the conclusion, this isn't happening on its own. I need to make it happen. And in that moment, everything changes. The energy of your desire, which was broadcasting a clear frequency into the quantum field, a signal that said, I'm available for this experience, suddenly gets overwritten by a much louder signal. This isn't here. I lack this. Reality is not cooperating. I must force this into existence through my effort. That second signal, the control frequency, carries specific information that the responsive field around you reads and matches. You're not broadcasting availability anymore. You're broadcasting lack, struggle, and separation from what you want. And reality, which is not a fixed objective structure but a responsive probability field collapsing around observation, organizes itself to match that signal. You think you're taking powerful action toward your goal, but your action is soaked in the energy of this isn't happening unless I force it. And that energy creates resistance at the quantum level, making the very thing you want more difficult to actualize. Here's the paradox that most people never recognize. The harder you try to control an outcome, the more you're affirming that the outcome isn't naturally available. Your control itself is the evidence you're offering to the field that what you want requires struggle, effort, and force. And the field, being responsive, says yes, you're right, and produces experiences that match that truth. I watched this play out devastatingly in my own life for years before I understood the mechanism. I wanted to build a successful business, so I controlled everything. Every client interaction planned, every marketing strategy optimized, every possible risk mitigated through preparation and backup plans. And my business stayed stuck at exactly the same revenue level for 3 years, not failing enough to quit, not succeeding enough to feel secure, just stuck, requiring constant effort to maintain, never building momentum, always feeling like I was pushing a boulder uphill. My mind said, see, you need to control more, plan better, work harder, but something deeper knew that control itself was the problem. The energy I was broadcasting through all that management and force was screaming, success doesn't come naturally to me. I have to make it happen through exhausting effort. And reality kept agreeing with me. In the comments, drop one word that captures what you're trying hardest to control right now. Maybe it's outcomes. Maybe it's perception. Maybe it's timeline. Maybe it's something uniquely yours. Let that word be a recognition, a first step toward release. Let's get specific about what happens in your system when you're in control mode. Because understanding this mechanically makes it impossible to keep doing it unconsciously. When you attempt to control an outcome, several things occur simultaneously at different levels of your being. Physiologically, your nervous system shifts into sympathetic activation. Not full fight or flight, but a sustained, low-level stress state. Your body interprets control as threat management. Something might go wrong, therefore I must remain vigilant. Therefore cortisol stays elevated. Therefore your system never fully relaxes into the parasympathetic state, where healing, integration, and receptivity occur. This isn't just uncomfortable. It has direct manifestation implications. Because your body is an electromagnetic broadcasting system, and the signal it sends is determined by your nervous system state. A body in chronic control mode broadcasts incoherence, fragmentation, separation, and that's what returns to you as experience. Energetically, control creates contraction. Think about the last time you really tried to force something to happen. Maybe you were in a conversation trying to control how someone perceived you, or working on a project with attachment to a specific outcome, or attempting to make a relationship develop according to your timeline. Feel into that memory. Now notice what happened in your body. There was tightening, wasn't there? In your chest, your shoulders, your jaw, your stomach. That physical contraction is the manifestation of energetic contraction. Your field literally pulls inward, becomes dense, creates boundaries between you and what you want. And here's what makes this so insidious. Contraction feels productive. It feels like focus. It feels like determination and commitment and taking things seriously. Your mind interprets the tension as evidence that you're working hard, being responsible, making things happen. But energetically, contraction is the opposite of receptivity. You cannot receive while you're contracted. It's like trying to catch water in a closed fist. The tighter you grip, the more slips through your fingers. Mentally, control generates specific thought patterns that loop continuously. What if this doesn't work? I need to prepare for that contingency. Did I consider this angle? Maybe I should adjust my approach. What are they thinking? I should clarify my intention. Is this progressing fast enough? I need to speed this up. These aren't bad thoughts. They're your system attempting to create safety through prediction and management. But each thought reinforces the fundamental premise. This outcome is not naturally unfolding. Therefore, I must control it into existence. And that premise is the block. Because reality doesn't respond to your actions nearly as much as it responds to the premise your actions are based on. If your premise is, I must force this, reality matches that. The forcing becomes necessary because you've made it so through your energetic insistence. I need to tell you about the specific moment my business transformed, because it illustrates exactly what happens when control releases. Not gradually, through months of practice, but instantly through a single recognition. I was in my office, looking at my carefully constructed business plan for the next quarter, every action item scheduled, every outcome predicted, every strategy optimized. It was beautiful, comprehensive, and looking at it made me feel completely exhausted. And I had a thought that surprised me. What if I just don't? What if I stop managing this? What if I let it be what it's going to be, without my constant interference? My immediate response was fear, total panic. If I stop controlling this, everything will fall apart. The business will fail. I'll lose everything I've built. But underneath that fear was something else, a curiosity, a quiet invitation to test whether my control was actually holding things together or holding things back. So I made a decision. For 1 week, I would take action only when action felt naturally aligned, not when my strategic plan said I should. I would stop checking metrics obsessively. I would stop rehearsing conversations. I would stop trying to predict and manage every variable. I would let go. Not passively, not irresponsibly, but I would release the grip. The constant energetic effort to make things happen through force. I would see what wanted to happen through me when I stopped insisting on my version of how things should unfold. The first 2 days were excruciating. My mind screamed that I was being irresponsible, that I was sabotaging my success, that I needed to get back in control immediately, but I stayed with the experiment. And on day 3, something happened that shouldn't have been possible according to my understanding of how business works. A client I'd been pursuing for 6 months, who'd repeatedly said they weren't ready, emailed me, completely unsolicited. They were ready to start immediately, at twice the fee I'd originally proposed, and they wanted to bring 2 other clients with them. My logical mind said coincidence, timing, lucky break. But something deeper recognized what actually occurred. For 6 months, I'd been trying to control that client relationship into existence, strategizing the perfect pitch, managing my presentation, forcing the timeline, and my control itself was creating resistance. The client could feel my need, my attachment, my agenda. It created subconscious pressure that made them pull back, not consciously, but energetically. They were responding to the frequency of force and naturally resisting it. The moment I released the grip, stopped trying to make it happen, let go of my attachment to that specific outcome, the energetic dynamic completely shifted. My field was no longer broadcasting, "I need this to happen." It was broadcasting, "I'm available and there's no pressure." And in that open, non-controlling space, the client felt safe to move forward. The opportunity that had been blocked by my forcing became available the instant I stopped forcing. This wasn't the universe rewarding me for surrendering. This was physics. The removal of energetic resistance allowed natural flow to resume, like taking your hand off a spring and watching it return to its natural state without effort. If this strikes a chord and fills a gap for you, consider staying connected here. Subscribe and hit the bell icon next to it. This isn't just a channel, it's a frequency. If you felt a nudge or a change while watching, you're already tuned in. We're not just watching content, we're practicing new ways of being. We're not just absorbing, we're creating possibilities. We're not just learning, we're remembering. I'm truly glad you're here. Let's keep growing and shifting together. Let me explain what's actually happening at the quantum level when you release control, because understanding the mechanism makes this replicable rather than random. The quantum field exists in what physicists call a state of superposition, all possible outcomes existing simultaneously as probability waves before observation collapses them into specific manifestation. Your consciousness is continuously performing this collapse function. Every moment, your awareness is selecting which probability wave actualizes into your experienced reality. But here's what most people don't understand. The selection isn't random, and it's not controlled by your conscious will. The selection is determined by your energetic frequency. by what you're broadcasting through your electromagnetic field, which is shaped by your nervous system state, emotional patterns, and most fundamentally, your relationship with control. When you're in control mode, attempting to force a specific outcome, you create what quantum physicists call a narrow observation window. You're collapsing probability waves only from a very limited range of possibilities, the ones that match your preconceived idea of how your desire should manifest. The specific path you've decided is the right path. The timeline you've determined is appropriate. This narrow observation window eliminates approximately 97% of the ways your desire could actually actualize. Because reality is far more creative, far more intelligent, far more capable of delivering what you want than your limited human perspective can strategize. But you've eliminated most of those pathways by insisting it happens your way through your control. You're like someone standing in front of a massive buffet with infinite options, but you've decided you can only eat the one specific dish you brought from home. And you're wondering why you're not being nourished by the abundance right in front of you. The moment you release control, your observation window expands dramatically. You're no longer collapsing only the probability waves that match your predetermined strategy. You're available to all probability waves that carry the frequency of your desire, regardless of how they manifest. This is why your manifestations become effortless when you let go. Not because you stop taking action, but because you're no longer limiting reality to the narrow bandwidth your controlling mind can conceive. You become available to receive through pathways you never would have thought to control your way down. Studies in quantum biology are beginning to verify this. Researchers have found that biological systems routinely access quantum superposition to optimize outcomes. Your cells perform quantum computing when solving complex problems, evaluating multiple possibilities simultaneously before collapsing into the most efficient solution. But this quantum optimization only functions when the system is coherent, when it's not being forced into predetermined pathways by conscious interference. The moment you try to control the process, you collapse the superposition prematurely, eliminating the quantum advantage. Your consciousness works the same way. When you release control, you allow your system's natural quantum processing to evaluate all possible pathways to your desire and collapse toward the most aligned option. When you force control, you override that intelligence with your limited logical mind's best guess. Which do you think is more effective? Your conscious mind analyzing maybe 7 variables at once? Or your consciousness accessing quantum superposition to evaluate infinite variables simultaneously? This is where most people misunderstand completely. They think letting go means becoming passive, stopping action, just waiting for the universe to deliver while they do nothing. And then they're disappointed when that approach produces nothing, and they return to control with the conclusion, "See, I have to force things, after all." But that's not what's being described here. Letting go of control is not the same as taking no action. It's a completely different orientation to action itself. Let me show you the distinction precisely. Control-based action comes from the mind. You analyze your current situation, identify the gap between where you are and where you want to be, construct a strategy to bridge that gap, and execute the strategy regardless of how it feels, because the strategy is right according to your analysis. This action carries the energy of force. You're doing it because you've decided it's necessary. You're pushing against current reality to create different reality. And your body knows the difference. There's tension in control-based action. There's effort. There's the constant management of anxiety about whether it's working. Aligned action comes from a completely different place. It emerges naturally from your system when you're not forcing. It has a quality of yes to it, a pull rather than a push. It doesn't require willpower or discipline because it wants to happen through you. This is the action that produces your most powerful results, not because the action itself is necessarily different, but because the energy it carries is completely different. Aligned action broadcasts "this is flowing through me naturally," rather than "I'm forcing this to happen," and reality responds to that distinction. Here's how you know the difference in your direct experience. Control-based action depletes you. Even if you're excited about the goal, the action itself drains energy. You need recovery time. You need breaks. You need to push through resistance. Aligned action energizes you. Even if it's challenging or requires skill development, engaging with it increases your available energy rather than depleting it. You could do it for hours and feel more alive at the end than when you started. Most people spend 90% of their time in control-based action and wonder why they're exhausted while producing minimal results. Then, occasionally, they have experiences of aligned action, produce tremendous results seemingly effortlessly, and conclude they got lucky rather than recognizing they briefly accessed a completely different operating system. Letting go of control means shifting your primary mode from forced action to aligned action. You don't stop doing things. You stop doing things from the energy of, I must make this happen. You start allowing things to happen through you when the action genuinely wants to emerge. Drop a word in the comments that represents what you want to stop forcing and start allowing. Flow, trust, ease, release. Your word matters. It's an energetic declaration anchoring this new frequency. Let me give you a specific practice to begin releasing control in a way that's tangible and immediate. Because understanding the concept intellectually doesn't shift anything. You need direct experience of what changes when the grip relaxes. Right now, bring to mind something you're currently trying to control, something you're actively managing, strategizing, forcing. Pick something real, something that has charge for you, something that, when you think about it, you immediately feel the urge to plan, to manage, to make sure it goes right. Got it? Good. Now notice what happens in your body when you focus on this thing you're trying to control. Don't analyze. Just feel. Where does tension show up? Your chest? Your shoulders? Your stomach? Your jaw? Just notice the physical manifestation of control. Now, here's the practice. I want you to say out loud, if possible, silently if necessary, I release my grip on this outcome. I trust that what I actually want can come to me without my force. Notice I didn't say, I give up on this or I don't care anymore. You're not abandoning your desire. You're releasing the energetic stranglehold you've had on how and when it manifests. Say it again. I release my grip on this outcome. I trust that what I actually want can come to me without my force. And as you say it, consciously relax the physical tension you noticed. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw soften. Let your chest open. Let your belly relax. You're releasing the grip physically, which trains your system to release it energetically. Most people, when they do this, immediately feel their mind panic. No, if I let go, nothing will happen. I need to keep controlling this. That panic is your conditioned pattern, recognizing it's being dismantled. It's not truth. It's a protection mechanism. Stay with the release. Keep breathing. Keep softening. Keep repeating. I release my grip on this outcome. I trust that what I actually want can come to me without my force. Something will shift, maybe subtle, maybe obvious. You might feel lighter. You might feel space opening up. You might feel sadness as you recognize how exhausting the control has been. You might feel fear at the vulnerability of not managing everything. Whatever you feel, that's the release beginning. That's your system starting to operate from a different frequency. And from that frequency, different possibilities become available. Now, here's the crucial next step that most people skip. After you've released the grip, you don't fill that space with new control. You don't immediately start strategizing a different approach or planning your next move. You stay in the open space. You practice being present with your desire without gripping it, without forcing it, without needing to know how or when it manifests. And from that space, you wait for aligned action to emerge. Not passively waiting. Active, present, available waiting. Like an athlete at the start line. Relaxed but ready. Not forcing the race to start, but prepared to move explosively the instant it does. The action that emerges from this space will feel qualitatively different from the control-based action you've been taking. It will feel obvious, natural, like of course this is the next step, rather than, I should do this because my strategy says so. That's how you know you've actually released control. The action starts flowing through you rather than being pushed by you. Think back to the things in your current life that you value most: the relationship, the opportunity, the breakthrough, the experience that feels most aligned and valuable. Now remember how it actually came to you. I'm willing to bet it didn't come through your most controlled, strategic, forced effort. It came when you'd stopped trying so hard, when you'd let go of attachment to that specific outcome, when you were focused on something else, or finally relaxed, or had given up on it happening the way you thought it should, and then it just appeared, easily, naturally, without the struggle you'd been convinced was necessary. This isn't coincidence. This is the pattern. Your most magical manifestations always arrive through the back door when you're not guarding the front door with control. Because your control at the front door was the very thing preventing them from entering. I see this pattern everywhere, once you learn to recognize it. The person who finds their ideal partner 2 weeks after deciding to stop looking and just enjoy being single. The entrepreneur who lands their biggest client immediately after deciding to shut down the business and try something else. The health transformation that happens when someone stops trying every diet and protocol and just starts listening to their body. It looks like surrender leading to reward, but it's not. It's the removal of resistance, allowing natural flow. It's the expansion of the observation window, allowing previously blocked pathways to actualize. It's physics, not magic. Your relationship with control is determining what percentage of available opportunities you can actually receive. If you're gripping tightly, trying to force everything your way, you might be able to receive 5% of what's actually trying to reach you. The other 95% can't get through your fortress of control. But when you release the grip, when you open your hands and your field, when you trust that what you want can come without your force, you become available to the full bandwidth. And things that seemed impossible when you were controlling suddenly become obvious, natural, effortless. This is why wisdom traditions across centuries have pointed to some version of let go and let flow. Not because surrender is virtuous, but because it's mechanically effective. It removes the primary obstacle between you and what you want, which has always been your insistence on controlling how it arrives. Let me guide you through an inventory that will reveal exactly where your control is blocking your manifestations. This isn't comfortable, but it's necessary if you want to shift from force to flow. I'm going to ask you questions, and I want you to answer honestly, not how you wish you'd answer, not how spiritually evolved you'd like to be. Honest assessment of your actual current pattern. First area, relationships. Are you trying to control how someone perceives you? Are you managing your presentation, editing your expression, strategizing your interactions to create specific impressions? Are you trying to make a relationship progress at your preferred pace? Are you attempting to change someone into who you want them to be rather than accepting who they actually are? For each yes, notice the energy of control. Notice the exhaustion of constant management. Notice that the very thing you're trying to create through control, authentic connection, is impossible when you're controlling. Second area, career and finances. Are you following strategies that feel obligatory rather than aligned because you believe that's what successful people do? Are you forcing actions that deplete you because you've decided they're necessary? Are you trying to make money come through specific channels you've predetermined while remaining closed to unexpected pathways? Are you attached to specific timelines that create pressure and anxiety when reality doesn't match your schedule? For each yes, notice you're operating from "it won't happen unless I force it." Notice that this premise is creating the very struggle you're experiencing. Notice what might become possible if you released that premise. Third area, health and body. Are you trying to control your body into specific outcomes through forceful protocols? Are you approaching your health from "my body is broken and I must fix it," rather than "my body is intelligent and I can support its natural intelligence"? Are you ignoring your body's signals because they don't match your plan? Are you creating stress about health that's actually contributing to the health issues you're trying to control. For each yes, notice the irony. Your control creates stress. Stress creates incoherence. Incoherence prevents the healing you're trying to force through control. Fourth area, personal development. Are you trying to force yourself to be different than you naturally are? Are you following someone else's prescription for growth because you've decided your natural unfolding isn't good enough? Are you treating yourself as a project to be optimized rather than a system to be supported? Are you more focused on becoming than on being? For each yes, notice you're rejecting what you currently are in service of what you think you should become. Notice that this rejection is the block to actual transformation. Notice what might shift if you released the self-improvement control and trusted your natural evolution. Look at what you've discovered. These are your control patterns, the places where you're gripping reality so tightly that reality can't deliver what you actually want. The areas where your force is preventing flow. And here's what's beautiful about seeing this clearly. You can't unsee it. Once you recognize your control patterns, once you feel the exhaustion they create, once you understand mechanically how they block your manifestations, you can't innocently engage with them anymore. The recognition itself begins the release, not through more effort, not through trying to stop controlling, but through direct seeing of what control actually costs you and what becomes available when you let go. Make sure you share this video with someone who's been exhausting themselves trying to force outcomes. You might be showing them the mechanism that's been blocking everything they want. By sharing, you're spreading an understanding that could free someone from years of unnecessary struggle, and that shift you create ripples back through the field. Now we're going to practice actual release with something real. Not just understanding it conceptually, but experiencing what changes in your system when control dissolves. This is where theory becomes transformation. Go back to the thing you identified earlier, the outcome you're currently trying to control. Feel into it again. Notice the grip you have on it, the tension, the management, the constant mental strategizing about how to make it happen. Now I want you to do something that might feel terrifying. I want you to completely let go of that outcome for the next 24 hours. Not forever, just one day. You're not giving up on it. You're conducting an experiment in what becomes possible when you release control. Here's specifically what this means. For the next 24 hours, you don't think about how to make this happen. You don't strategize. You don't plan. You don't rehearse. You don't manage. Every time your mind goes to control mode about this outcome, you gently redirect. I've let go of controlling this. I trust what wants to happen. You do take action if action naturally wants to happen. If something feels genuinely aligned, if there's a clear yes in your system, you move with that. But you don't force action based on what you think you should do. You only move with what wants to move through you. For one day, you practice being in relationship with your desire without gripping it, without needing to know how or when, without managing every variable. You practice the energy of I want this and I trust it can come to me without my force. This is terrifying for the controlling mind. It will tell you that if you do this, everything will fall apart, that you're being irresponsible, that you need to get back in control immediately. That fear is the evidence that control has been running your life. The intensity of the resistance to letting go reveals how much energy you've been spending on force, and how much of your life experience has been shaped by that force rather than by natural flow. But do it anyway. For 24 hours, let go, release the grip, trust the experiment, and pay attention to what happens. Not just externally, though you might be surprised by what shows up when you stop forcing, but internally. Notice how your body feels without the constant tension of control. Notice how your mind quiets when it's not continuously strategizing. Notice how much energy becomes available when you're not spending it on management and force. Notice what action naturally wants to emerge when you're not forcing action. Notice what insights come when your mind isn't cluttered with control thoughts. Notice what opportunities you become able to see when you're not tunnel-visioned on your predetermined path. This 24-hour experiment will teach you more about the mechanism of control and release than anything I could explain, because you'll experience directly what shifts when the grip relaxes. And once you've experienced it, you can't pretend anymore that control is necessary or effective. Here's what I've discovered through years of releasing control and watching what emerges in that space. Life knows what it's doing. Reality has intelligence that far exceeds your conscious mind's strategic capacity. The universe, the quantum field, the responsive intelligence, organizing probability, whatever you want to call it, is not random or chaotic or requiring your control to function. It's staggeringly intelligent, and it's already moving toward the manifestation of your desires through pathways you cannot see from your limited perspective. But your control keeps interrupting that movement. Your force keeps redirecting the flow. Your insistence on your way keeps blocking the way that would actually work. When you let go, you're not abandoning your desires to chaos. You're finally allowing the intelligence that's been trying to deliver them to actually do its work. You're getting out of the way. You're stopping your interference with natural flow. And what wants to happen through you when you're not controlling is always more intelligent, more aligned, more effective than what you can force through control. Always, without exception. Because you're accessing the quantum field's capacity to evaluate infinite variables simultaneously and collapse toward optimal outcomes, rather than limiting yourself to your conscious mind's ability to analyze maybe 7 factors, the relationship you're trying to control into existence, there's a version of that connection available that's more fulfilling, more authentic, more sustainable than the one you're trying to force. But it requires you to release your specific script for how it should develop and allow what actually wants to emerge between you and another person. The financial abundance you're trying to control into your bank account? There are streams of income trying to reach you through channels you haven't considered, wouldn't have strategized, couldn't have predicted. But they can't get through while you're insisting money must come through the specific avenues you've decided are legitimate. The health transformation you're trying to control through protocols, your body already knows how to heal itself. It's trying to communicate what it needs. But you're overriding its intelligence with forced interventions based on external authorities rather than internal knowing. Everything you want is trying to come to you. Not eventually, not if you're good enough, right now. But it can't reach you through your fortress of control. The walls you've built to protect yourself, to manage outcomes, to ensure things go your way, those same walls are preventing reception. Letting go doesn't mean what you want won't come. Letting go is how you finally allow it to come through the paths it's actually available through, rather than the paths you've decided it must come through. We're reaching the point where understanding needs to become practice, where recognition needs to become embodiment. Because you can know everything I've shared here and still default to control the moment you return to your life. Knowing is not enough. Integration is what creates lasting shift. Here's your integration practice for the next 7 days. Not a one-time experiment, but a week-long immersion in operating from release rather than control. Each day, you identify one area where you're currently trying to control an outcome, and you practice letting go in that specific area for that entire day. Day 1. Release control in one conversation. Pick an interaction you have today and go into it without trying to control how you're perceived, what the other person thinks, or what outcome emerges. Just be present. Speak authentically. Listen without agenda. Notice what happens when you're not managing the interaction. Day 2. Release control in one work task. Choose something professional you need to do and do it without forcing, without overthinking, without trying to make it perfect. Do it from alignment, from what wants to happen, without the controlling energy of this must go exactly right. Notice the quality of your work and the energy it takes when control is absent. Day 3. Release control of your body for one day. Stop forcing your body into specific outcomes. Stop controlling your food, your exercise, your appearance based on what you think you should do. Instead, listen to what your body actually wants. Honor its signals. Trust its intelligence. Notice what it's been trying to tell you beneath your control. Day 4. Release control of your time. Stop forcing your schedule. Stop saying yes to obligations that don't feel aligned just because you think you should. Stop filling every moment with productivity. Let your day have space. Let action emerge naturally, rather than forcing it according to your plan. Notice what wants to happen when time isn't controlled. Day 5. Release control in your primary relationship or desire for relationship. If you're in relationship, stop trying to make it be anything specific today. Just be with what it actually is. If you're desiring relationship, stop strategizing how to make it happen. Stop managing your presentation. Just be yourself, without control. Notice what shifts. Day 6. Release control of a financial outcome. Pick one area where you're trying to force money to come, or trying to prevent money from leaving. Let go of the grip for one day. Trust that your financial reality can organize itself without your anxious management. Notice what becomes possible in that space. Day 7. Release control of yourself. This is the deepest one. For one full day, stop trying to be different than you are. Stop the self-improvement project. Stop forcing yourself to think, feel, or behave according to what you've decided you should be. Just be what you actually are in this moment. Notice who you are when you're not controlling yourself. Each evening, write down what happened that day, what you noticed, what shifted, what became possible, what you learned about control and release. This documentation is crucial because your mind will try to forget, will try to return to control patterns, will try to dismiss the evidence that releasing works better than forcing. By day 7, you'll have direct, repeated evidence that what you've been trying to control into existence actually comes more easily when you let go. Not belief, not theory. Direct experience across multiple life areas. And that experience creates new neural pathways, new default patterns, new ways of operating that don't require constant effort to maintain because they're more natural, more aligned, more true to how reality actually works than your old control patterns ever were. We've covered the mechanism, the science, the practice, but there's one recognition that underlies all of this. One shift in understanding that, once seen, makes letting go of control natural rather than forced. And it's this: you were never actually in control to begin with. All that energy you've been spending trying to control outcomes, trying to manage reality, trying to force things to happen your way, it was never actually working. Not in the way you thought it was. The outcomes you produced through control, you would have produced more easily without control. The things that didn't work despite your control is why they didn't work. You've been exhausting yourself, maintaining an illusion, the illusion that your force is what makes things happen, the illusion that without your constant management, everything would fall apart, the illusion that you're holding your life together through control. But reality has been organizing itself the entire time based on the frequency you broadcast, not based on your control. Your control has just been shaping that frequency toward force, struggle, and separation, which is why your experience has contained so much force, struggle, and separation. The universe, the quantum field, the intelligent responsive system you're embedded in, it's been delivering your experience based on your energetic signature. When that signature says, "I must force outcomes," you get experiences where forcing seems necessary. When that signature says, "I trust natural flow," you get experiences where flow is obvious. You've never been in control. You've been in relationship with a responsive field that matches whatever you broadcast. And broadcasting control creates experiences that appear to require control, which reinforces the false belief that control is necessary. But you can stop right now, this moment. You can release the exhausting illusion that you're holding everything together through your force. You can recognize that reality is far more intelligent than your strategies. You can trust that what you want can come to you without you forcing it into existence. And the instant you make that shift, from trying to control reality to trusting reality's intelligence, everything changes. Not because you've learned a new technique, because you've stopped interfering with what was always trying to happen. The universe is trying to give you what you want. Not eventually, if you work hard enough. Right now. But it can't reach you while your hands are clenched, while your field is contracted, while your energy is broadcasting, "This won't happen unless I force it." Everything you've been fighting for is available. The relationship, the abundance, the health, the creative expression, the freedom, the joy, all of it. Not in some distant future after you've controlled your way to worthiness. Now. Available now. But you have to let go. You have to release the grip. You have to trust that the intelligence organizing reality is not incompetent, is not chaotic, is not requiring your constant intervention to function. You have to stop forcing and start allowing. Stop pushing and start receiving. Stop controlling and start trusting. Not as spiritual bypass, not as passive waiting, but as precise recognition of how consciousness and reality actually interface. The moment you let go of control, the universe gives you what you were forcing, not as reward for surrender, but as natural consequence of removing the primary obstacle between you and what you want, which has always been your insistence that you must make it happen your way. Let go, release the grip, trust what wants to happen through you, and watch reality reorganize itself around the frequency of openness, receptivity, and trust that becomes available when control dissolves. Everything you want is already here. You just have to open your hands and let yourself receive.